it's yourself. That must mean it's time for the show. By the show, I mean Reekie's 221 BBC Words First Showcase. By the show, I mean a journey across continents with consonants through the medium of spoken word. But first up, I want to say a big thank you to our gorgeous 221 tutors. That's Hannah Lavery, Colin McGuire, Leyla Josephine and Kat Hepburn. With those gratitudes paid, it's time to delve in to this sumptuous poetic buffet. Enjoy. Yummy.
In the future, candy floss doesn't rot your teeth. It is still deliciously sweet. Toothache will just be a flavour. In the future, you don't have to sell your labour. In the future, I still live with grief. In the future, you can swim in the water of Leith. You can see the bottom and there isn't even a trolley. In the summer, you could freeze it into ice lollies. And they'd be bad, but not toxic. In the future, every greenhouse will be public. Museums to the last glass ceilings. In the future, we all have time for healing. In the future, I have wrinkled hands and laughter lines. I look just like her. And then, older than she got to be. In the future, I will thank the sea for wearing down the edges of my memory so I can hold her close without cutting my hands. In the future, we will give back the lands. In the future, we will all have time to grieve. In the future, this will be the past and we can leave things here. Like that ugly couch that your landlord bought. We can leave that here without a thought. Your landlord, I mean. The couch can get recovered. In the future, I still miss my mother.
When the COVID pandemic started, I was in China, but it wasn't as bad as it seemed, except that for the first few weeks, I struggled to find food. Before COVID, common Chinese greeting often started with 你饿了吗? This means, have you eaten? Because 民以食为天. This means that common people regard food as heaven, I guess. They still remember that hunger is as close to hell as you can get on earth, and everyone has a pandemic buried within their bones. I bought the last box of hairy mangoes I could find and I gorged. I sucked the juice out of its core, my mouth both relieved and frustrated to pluck its hairs from my teeth, but it was the only thing reminding me that I was still alive, that I was closer to heaven than I was before. My dad, 3 days into my mango frenzy, asked me, will you make it home? And I said, I hope so. I did. I landed, burned the taste of mango off my tongue with a West Indian curry, bleached it down with a glass of water until my system was sanctified. My dad and I sat down, we laughed for a moment. And then he found his head in his hands, body as if in a foreign land. He placed borders around his smile and told me that cancer had clutched his cells and wrung them like a prune. It quarantined his bones. Arthritis violently moved in like a national lockdown and grinded themselves into powdered milk. And I asked him, will you make it? And he said, I'm getting closer to heaven now. When I found this out, I begged Zoom therapy to take me in like a long-lost friend. In my first session, I burst into 1,000 letters. I had a smile that was postbox loud without sound. My soul erupted into a bag of Skittles and scattered like my mental health. And I asked my counselor, will I get through this? And he said, that depends on you later. My dad walked into my room. Hair wispy and wet like mango, hair's body like dry clay, smile brittle as cancerous bone crawled upon the side of my bed. And he said, we are all chaos. A fire furnace filled and full of mess. I kissed his shriveled mango head, and I was reminded, though weak and frail, he is still here, and this is as close to heaven as I can get right now. And I asked him, will we get through this? And he said, if we make it through ourselves first, then I hope so.
So this piece is called The Open Letter to the Advertising Agency. Dear the woman in the yogurt advert, your smooth legs at Alicante tan are making me feel uncomfortable, spooning Muller in the sand with your slingshot G-string that would send your muesli up to the moon. With a washing ringer Hasselhoff that would come bounding to your tune because he is wrapped around your finger like barbecue sauce on a messy night out. But you don't have many messy nights out because your sins are calculated on an app. Dear the woman in the Malteser ad, your business casual obsession with calories in a bag are making me feel uncomfortable because your words chase my starving guilt like a poltergeist and hold scales and shame up to a lifeless business light. I mean, what is this supposed to be? Willy Wonka and the tight tummy factory? I was never meant to be Charlie. I'd have been Violet, inflated with opinions and other high-calorie alternatives. But look at this, dog gobstopper. There's no preservatives. Because there's people out at Slimming World who are counting their sins like a Jehovah's abacus and preaching that is the answer to their happiness and handsomeness. They've been led by sin in their media and marketing, through lies and deception of audience-based targeting. So dear the PR department, you've made us all uncomfortable, pushing improper parameters of perfection. But people are like the beer-battered curds in the gravy of your poutine. People are like the crusty curry stain on last night's ripped jeans. And we have had enough. We want to see real people on our big screens. So, you can take your smooth legs and your Alicante tan and your impractical and poor choice of dairy product for the beach and you can jog off to the promenade. Because I'll be waiting here at the ice cream stand.
Who am I? That question you often ask yourself. Blood that runs like a river flows through you, not knowing you, built up of complex wiring. But wiring often has faults, deep layers of skin, encasing you like a cocoon. The beauty trapped. You can feel trapped sometimes the way the mind works. My story began when I first felt the pain of loss. That hole cut deep, like the abyss you don't want to see. Nothing can compare to the pain. Those silent cries that freeze you like ice on the windowsills, like the ones that mirror your emotions, the chills. The mix of emotions fester like an infection, almost toxic. It's hard to breathe sometimes. The tightness of your chest feels like a boa constrictor is crushing you. The lifeless feeling makes you think it's all about to end, but really, it's just a panic attack. Apart from panic attacks and the occasional faints, life was good on the outside. It was fun. Those late night drives, those big club sessions, the outfits dripping, the bottles popping, smile and laughter and hours of dancing. I can say I was happy, living life in the moment. Life like a movie. The best bits like a trailer. But that's all it was. A trailer. The tears rolling, the credits rolling, all the same. And then I went into a dark part of my mind. Narrow passages like dingy hallways, those rooms you don't want to visit. And then you find yourself, once a museum full of arts, now a different type of exhibition. Different pieces. My legs became a canvas for my bloody masterpiece. Not something I wanted to disclose, but a trigger warning would be sensible here. Like I said, it's a trailer, so I can't miss out the best parts. That's what draws you in. Was this really my big feature? The cross between Saw and the Wolf of Wall Street, the mixed mind games and the complex games, and me being on cloud 9 sometimes. But like I said, it's a trailer. You see what I want you to see. But then I still sit here questioning myself. Who am I?
I am a mixture of complex identities. Hence, when you mix every colour of the rainbow, you will receive black. If you were to strip down the colours of my flag, you will see the naked vulnerabilities that my ancestors stored within my veins and arteries. So every time I raise my flag, you are seeing my colour, you are seeing my identity, you are seeing a piece of cloth that is stitched from the tears of those washed out. Those that would rather drown in the sea of hope than be chastised in the shackles of despair. Those detached from colour because of the value in their pigment. Those flags that were drained of colour but never raised a white flag. They throw a flag on a plate to symbol a flag down, man down. Do I really need a tonal scale like do, re, mi, ah? Those raise me, ah? Those colours limiting how you see me within your prism's eye. Or am I the rainbow still holding onto his pot of gold because it's filled with hope instead of filled with blood diamonds? They say hope is not tangible, but it's damn well usable. Let the colours of my flag be a reminder of what I hold within my melanin whilst I hold you accountable. Accountable, you'll count it all. So you can see that every piece of colour my ancestors experimented on with palettes is palatable. Are you hungry? Can you stomach it? Hungry for you to see my skin like my colour can be peeled away because it's the flesh of my forefathers that keeps me muscling on. Hungry because I haven't eaten in a long time. And those gut punches merely sound like the echoes of Caribbean drums. My hue is human. My flag is humane. The colour you took away from us pales in comparison to our inner shine, so bleach me to white. But remember, even albinos look Negro. Is it not apparent yet? Then no matter what colour you try to take away from us, we will still be vibrant because you can still see our outline. And I don't mean chalked out like a murder scene, I mean shining, I mean outline, I mean out there, I mean outshine, I mean insight. My flag is a mixture of complex identities hidden in my helix. I'm healed. It's a case of are you ready to see how colourful my perception of the world is?
Was my life to be yet another Greek mythology? Was it written in my astrology, bound to end in tragedy? In all the stories of you and I, was there to be agony? Tell me truthfully. Did you know you stuck storms in my skies, made all my flowers wither from your lies, all my thoughts never vocalized because I was so ostracized? I had become the cage bird Maya spoke of, but to you, I'd always be the joke of the room. Was my life to be yet another Greek mythology? In all the stories of you and I, were you to be the wave and I the shipwreck, you to be the maze and I perplexed, you to be victorious and I weak and inglorious? Tell me honestly, was I right to believe you were the worst of humanity, to see your brutality and insanity with a passing glance? Because honestly, I gave you chance after chance, and honestly, maybe you were starved of affection, the personification of rejection, lacked a connection with any living being, but I swear, your objection to my existence won't ever give you brilliance, give you fulfillment, because cruelty is always cold. It's fool's gold. Was my life to be yet another Greek mythology? In all the stories of you and I, were you to lead the mob and I live in exile, choking down sobs? Was it that your legacy would destroy the best in me, that I never really had control of this thing called destiny? And before I go, let me speak frank, it's as if your soul drank the sweat of Hades, the way your words would sway these ignorant youths, the way they would hither your way. maybe you'd idolize Medusa and her slithering ways, weren't one for Arethusa and her glimmering waves. And let me speak blunt. I think a blight lives within your soul, darkening all that could have been gold. I think that with each step you take, you make this world more cold. I think you chipped my soul, gripped all the hope I once had and turned it to stone. I think you're the monster under the bed, that cruel voice in our head. I think you wish others dead, and I truly believe you could lead others to their end. Was my life to be yet another Greek mythology? Maybe I am to live this tragedy. It's written in my astrology, almost mirroring Greek mythology, but if I'm to live with scars for all my years, at least I have spoken my truth.
Stomping the earth and moon. My soul screamed out to dance again while crawling through the darkest hole in the deep of depths of hell, covered in scorching sharp blades that cut along my right leg so deep, leaving me with permanent nerve damage and third-degree burns. My soul and body, my bones and flesh reconstructing, revitalizing slowly. I began to stand up at the pace of Ataroa's Hapapa Glacier on the dance floor, slippery with spilled happy juices. I began picking up the pace, disintegrating my boots with each stomp, just as the boots I wore before, leaving a trail of my heels to show the presence of my life. I stomped the earth's surface with my fancy footwork, creating hefty vibrations that traveled downward, tapping on my ancestors' graves to awaken them for our daily grooves. My redeveloped two-steps remind me that my brain never truly forgot how to move my body. My expressive forms circle around my post-traumatic stress disorder in a dance cipher, ready to keep battling it day and night through every movement. Above me spins the disco ball, shining bright as the moon in the darkened sky, blowing kisses to all the stars that flicker about, illuminating the way to my freedom. The day of days has come. Feeling the sweat of my friends and of strangers mixing along our bodies together from the tip of our hair to the very bottom of our souls, sweat both escaping our pores yet being sucked in as natural moisturizer. My shattered heart from the distance between dance was slowly mending with every whine of my hips, with every pop and lock of my arms, with every leg extension out to my sides. No other entity could ever make my heart smile this wide. My heavy tears of happiness flowing from my eye ducts down my face and along my lips, tasting salty, sweet victory of reclaiming my body here right now and well into my future. I breathe in this space with lungs filling of the air that carries me up toward the skies of the exosphere, then breaking swiftly into outer space. I don't need no space helmet for these trips. I breathe to the beats, a meditation of movement, as my feet shuffle across the moon's icy craters. I feel only warmth in my heart and soul up here. The day of days has come, feeling the endless vibrations of the beats that takes me far away, yet deep inside myself with every stomp. There is no other space and time but here, on this dance floor.
Introducing me. Introducing myself for the third week in a row doesn't make me feel any easier. No matter how much I go over my lines in my head, they spill like spaghetti onto my desk, scattered and joined and tangled that I can't tell where one word begins and another ends. They wrap themselves around my fingers when I try and pick them apart, and the meanings become muddled around my being and they start to tighten like vines. Or like snakes constricting their prey with their bodies, and I can't fucking breathe. No matter how much I try and tear these snake words off me. And the kind smells in the rectangular boxes on my screen don't ease the assault either. And I find myself gasping for air. I'm hoping this chair opens up, ends my despair and devours me. And sends me into a deep dark hole below, and I don't have to talk about me, or what I'm made up of, what qualifications I have, or where I'm from, because frankly, who the fuck cares? But that's the irrational part of me. If these strangers didn't care, I wouldn't be here. They wouldn't have asked me for my name, my favourite piece of poetry, or why I write what I write. I wouldn't have gotten that email type congratulations, show up on this date. But I am my own worst enemy. The pieces I write don't deserve to be read or heard by an audience. But I will disguise myself with fanciful words and set up a smokescreen of pretty lies and whisper sweet nothings. Because I don't want people to see me. How I really miss my dad, how I always have to message people first, how some days my anxiety eats at me. How I'm just beginning to love myself after years of loathing, how people don't think I'm smart just because they find me pretty. How I don't feel at home in this house and that there's something missing. And how it frustrates me that I don't know what it is. And how I'm probably going to spend the rest of my life searching. But despite that, there's a thrill in the thought of spending however many years searching for the unknown.
2.5 minutes, lads, barks a voice to your right. In that alpha tone, it's a cross of dog bark and spite, echoing through the mint green brick and plexiglass barrier between them and us. But you don't make a fuss, and calmly proceed as the sound of jangled keys recedes down the corridor. You clock the doleful eyes of the guys around you dart from ceiling to floor. Now they've undone, unshed the tight war skins they once wore, wondering how they've gone from wishing for less time to now wanting more. You hear orange plastic creak as you lean forward to retrieve a box of heroes from under your seat. You pass the holy purple tin around the circle, watch tracksuit and tattoo-clad limbs slowly, delicately drop hands in, see chewed-up, blood-stained fingers, open mouths, eyes closed delight, a divine ritual lit by bright white strip light and eclipsed by the foresight of that same shoebox-sized ceiling they'll be staring up at when day turns to night. You remember your first day, ID badge checked, bag scanned on a tray, taken to Pastoral Wing 2A, advised to wait and pray someone would give it the time of day. Won't have any of them lads doing any of that arty shit, I can tell you that for free. And then they arrive, one by one, a single file of figures already infinitely more alive than the headlines and textbooks from where your preconceptions derive. The one sat next to you asks, "You gonna forget about us when you're gone, miss?" Eyes faithfully marked with the dark circles of his past. You smile, chew the inside of your gum, trying to find the words to sum up the magnitude of how far you watched him come, how once the edges of his body skim the parameters of this space, chin up and eyes down, barely able to meet your face, on his skin prickled in adrenaline cold sweat induced by the shrieks of unspoken things he couldn't forget. But over the week you watched something shift, a creative spark begin to lift his spirits to exist in the present, feeling seen in the floating state between the carefree realm of an improvised scene, or an acrostic poem, releasing part of his uninhibited brain once unknown. You think of the prisons of the mind we all exist inside when we don't have the right words to call our own. You saw a man find, in the undergrowth of his regret, the strength to express something you'll never forget. 1 minute, lads! 1 minute to spare, of just you and a group of people breathing the same air. Bodies and clothes and teeth and hair, fathers and sons, brothers and friends, once fractured, separated from the mainland of roundabouts and dead ends, dividing lines and overtime. Stop signs and penalty fines, cast away from wide-eyed curtain twitchers who'd rather see them lose their spark, switch channels on the TV before the redemption arc, set the timer running inside an eternal glitch of black and white. But these men see the grey area and are paying the price, and here with you in amongst the mess, vape smoke, coffee stains, discarded hero wrapper sits the stillness of everything existing at once, in these 2.5 minutes before you lose them, and they go off for lunch.
We fornicate with people who are comparable to forest fire, then we rebandage bands when it's best fitting at 4 in the morning when the wine's kind of worn off and a single text is the barricade between you and skin on skin. Silence can create sound waves and tequila can talk the straightest laced individual into a spiral. Sunday morning will be spent in self-deprecation because when it's yourself, it's hard to sympathize at 4 in the morning, sharing sunsets with souls that will leave our sheets by sunrise. It was the very beginning of spring, and I thought you'd be a rainbow after so many dreaded months wasted on the unrequited, yet you turned out to be my very first tornado, a natural disaster, a nest of havoc I decided to call home. You paid no rent for the spaces between my fingers. Parts of me you were able to occupy while still owing arrears, but charm is a cheat code. Not all can perform, but it is an art to be as cunning as a woman, and we were both just so. Look at me, melting into your palms, slipping off of your skin, right into your lap, ready to make a mess of everything you have already built. Cyclones make home out of bone here. We are the resting place for the reckless, the trained, destined for wreckage in search of multiple hands to hold us. But you could only ever have the two. I told myself, do not let those moths in the pit of your stomach be mistaken for butterflies. There is a clear distinction between being menacing and meaning no harm. You settle like dust in the suspected places, the forgotten, the CD racks, cabinets, creases, forming civilizations on skin, the places she hasn't visited in a while, and the places you wish she really would. Look at you, making a mockery of your worth, apologising for stains from messes you have not even made yourself, trying to save water through a sieve and feeling disheartened when all you have worked for washes away. Like really, you can't replant what has been ripped from its roots, forced home into the hearts of people who would not even leave the landing light on for your arrival. I have heard unrequited love is a similar sensation to holding your hands on a hot stove for too long, but I wouldn't know. So don't stick around long enough to feel the burn or to feel anything at all for that matter. Find somebody who fills the spaces that separate your ribs. Somebody who makes cave out of cage. Somebody who makes you feel safe. Like butterflies bumping into brick walls in the dead of the night. Find somebody you do not have to ask to switch on the landing light.
What can I say? What can't I say? What am I saying? Am I saying enough? Maybe I just need to take a step back. Like Kobe Bryant's step backs, he moves backwards to go forwards. You can hardly call that a setback, the motion was still in play. Just like a movie, if it was directed by Michael Bay, that way I can optimise my prime without transforming my worth, so I can be level-headed and focus on what's ahead. All that time that I lost, I was just lost in time. My most complex situations inspired the most simplest lines. Instead of following signs, they just asked, where do I sign? So I can get a headline, get that moment of shine, but it's just a matter of time before the glory declines. That's just the way it's designed. And when the story's in line, then they're on to the next. But they still look upset. Instead of buying a duplex, they should have saved up their checks so we can keep them in check. But the cycle continues, today and the next. What's the point in pointing fingers? They don't even see the point. So, what can I say? What can't I say? What am I saying? Am I saying enough? No. All of those choices, they are already being made without my say, everywhere I look. Political speakers and biblical preachers are both the same. They both live by the book.
Their applause does not love you. I must learn to love myself in all the places where your applause will not find me. When the room is reduced to stacked chairs and empty wine glasses. When the curtains are drawn and there is no one left in the crowd to clap at my open wounds. I must learn to heal in the silence. When the night ends and I hang up my metaphors on the coat rack, there will be no applause waiting for me at home, and the loneliness will tuck me to bed reading stories of last night's memories. But the poet must learn to live in all the shadows where the spotlight will not find them, because you will wake and no fingers will click, and no mouths will roar at your glory. You will not roll over to find their satisfaction sleeping next to you. Instead, you will wake, and you will learn to love yourself in all the places where their applause will not find you, or you will find yourself in all the places where your own applause couldn't reach you, or you will love the places where you find yourself and their applause will find you loving yourself, or you will find love in your own applause, or love will meet you in the strangest of places, but their applause will not be one of them. So love yourself and clap like you're the only one left in the audience, like yours is the only one that ever mattered anyway. Thank you.
Hands clapped! What do you think about that? Fat, sizzling whilst we're satisfying our need to feed our carnivorous disease. I have seen the path to living green, and as a vegan, it's my fucking job to convert all you heathens. You want to know something true? I've been vegan since birth. I took my first taste of breast milk and spat it out in the dirt, slapped my mum round the face and shat myself on her shirt and screamed, "No animal products!" And then I got to work. That was my first dirty protest, and it wasn't my last. My life's purpose is to use verses, the worthless, perverted persons who worsen this earth with surplus concern for throwing flesh in the furnace. But please, can you tell me the facts? I eat meat every week and I'm trying to cut back. Try, that's pretty fucking cute, you fucking pussy. Do you try not to cry when you masturbate? Do you avoid accidentally shooting yourself in the face? Do you eat kilos of lard when you try to lose weight? Because our world is at stake, you're a fucking disgrace. There's no I in team, there's no I in meat, mate. So get that shit off your plate. Because there's a me in meat, so when you eat your piece of steak, you hit and beat my mental state. What did pork ever do to you? When did lamb fuck you over? What's your beef with beef? What's your chicken with chicken? Buck, 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 buck. Scared of a little change? Because when I hear people say they can't live without bacon, it makes me feel afraid for the state of this nation. Deforestation, financial deregulation, the rate of inflation, the growth in the population. These things don't mean shit to the V generation. Ha! Joke's on you. Your beef bourguignon is a poisonous stew, plus there's pus in the milk that you pour in your brew. Those nuggets and strips are nothing but feet, beak and bits, hormones, antibiotics, and all of it sticks with the lick of this meat glue. And red meat plus your gut equals bowel cancer for you. White meat plus your heart equals diabetes type 2. Your blood divided by seafood equals mercury deposits squared, and a slow death for your unborn children and your children's children. See? Fuck. It all adds up. Once we cut through this fake news and choose how we view to abuse Mother Nature's sweet womb, the moos of our brothers enthuse us to smother barbecues and all other routes to a meat lover's pursuit of his sick obsession with this kind of food. Listen to your hearts. Join me, I ask. Help me beat this nation's meat and start a revolution.
I want to tell you that sex has gotten better, but instead I am screaming at a tooth about all of the times it was horrible. There is a man inside this bar's mouth. Tonight they're hosting a comedy night with an open mic. My body is watching the puddles of empty tables stay puddles of empty tables. Still, I can feel the tremble of an audience when I breathe close to the mic, as if just by being there, me and my back knee scars are doing amazingly. There is a mouth inside this man's bar, and I like being asked about myself and answering with words about myself. Idealistic, good at breathing, horny for attention. Inside this bar, there is a man's mouth, and the bar has been asking me about my last breakup. And the way the bar rubs against my arm asks me, do you want to come back to mine after all of this? Now there are more words about myself. Sunburnt, uncertainly tipsy, bad in bed. There is a man inside this mouth's bar, and everywhere I go, I always end up telling the same story. I tell the man about the bed, drunk on unconscious skin, the light knifing my back enough to sober up, about the first time I dropped a bit of myself in the wrong place and thought it would just be easier to make a carbon copy like you would with a spare key. Inside this man there is a bar's mouth, and I tell the mouth about the last time it rained saliva and how the entire city smelled like a hangover. Sometimes I imagine these stories of finding my body in random Airbnbs stacked on top of each other, like my many adapters cling to each other's backs as if they were lovers or a human centipede. The bouncer is knowingly dressed in the softest velvet, and my heart has been crawling all day. There is a bar inside this man's mouth, and although I promised myself I wouldn't, I tell the bar about how at the park I heard a small yellow bird sigh, as if to say, "It's okay. Tomorrow you can tell him sex will be good again."
Mama says she almost named me Keltum, after her mother. And I wonder if I too would have crossed rivers desperate to escape back to my family because the one they married me into wanted to tattoo their traditions all over my body and claim me as their new property. Mama says Grandma hated the symbols, the ink on her face most. She tried to hide them until her last breath stripped everything away. The only time freedom was truly attained, because Keltum lived in the shadows of husbands she never chose. I wonder what Mama saw in me to remind her of Keltum. Did she hope that I would come to break every chain that once locked her mother in a house that no longer exists? I saw traces of the mother she knew every time my mother stood, body bruised and broken from a marriage she was fooled to think would be so different. I wonder if I was born to be eulogy to the mother she lost. If that's why she handed me a wooden family chest filled with transgenerational trauma, enough stories to make me despise men. I wonder if she chose my father because he embodied everything her mother warned her against, yet placed her bets and lost in the face of the patriarchy this beautiful culture of ours commends. Men that think themselves too great to rise in on the backs of women, cracks left for daughters to inherit, ashes and dust left for them to clean. I wonder if Mama thought naming me Keltum would break the cycle, recycle this name into a more sustainable state of existence where my back only carries the weight of the past. Their struggles as mine, but no struggles of mine to carry on to the next generation of daughters too great to be overshadowed by men too loud, too proud to look down and see the damage they have caused, the stains their feet have left on the graves of too many great women lost. I wonder if Mama wanted me to resurrect each and every one of them, each line bringing a lost woman back to life. Or maybe Mama only wanted to hear the name Keltum ring around the house. Feel it dance on her tongue and be reminded of the great woman her mother was. If it were up to me, I would be nameless, a blank canvas with no history and no expectations, no burden, no greater mission, and no chains to break. But instead, my father named me Meriem.
Well, that's it for this year's 2021 BBC Words First Showcase. Hope you've enjoyed all the contributions and all the work that's been put into those efforts by all those young poets who produced some fantastic stuff and shows that yet again poetry is in safe hands for the future. We've really enjoyed doing this. It's been a wonderful experience working with up and coming poets. We hope they've got lots out of it. We hope you have seen some talent emerge, and thank you for everybody involved, BBC Words First, everybody down there, and for everybody who's been involved in the whole process of selecting and workshopping and just getting these poets raised to the next level with their work. And of course, most of all, to the finalists and the poets, we wish you luck and hopefully fantastic stuff with the poetry in the future. So thank you all. We're been Reekie, over and out.